Welcome everyone. This is another webinar section, the March edition of our free webinar is here again. Well, welcome for those of us that joined us last month. We sincerely appreciate your continuous engagement. This is coming to us from Geophia Academy, where we take students and prepare students for O-level exams, from WAEC, JAM, GCE, NECO to foreign exams, including IELTS, TOEFL, GMAT, GRE, as well as SAT. We also take students for basic computer to tech world. In our tech courses, we pick one of the courses each month, the last Friday of every month, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., just for 1 hour. We make out time to be a part of this and be engaged. Prepare yourself, get your system ready, get your phones ready, get your notes ready. It's always a very transformative section as you engage also in a journey with this very important topic, Introduction to UI UX. So get settled, feel relaxed, share the link to someone, invite someone to join us even this very moment as we get on with this important topic. Like I said, this program is coming to us from Geophia Academy. We also prepare students that have been out of school for a while. You can return back to school. There is no late hour. So we'll get through with adult education and also help students to register for online courses as well as NYC registration. So this very moment, I'll be making welcome our speaker tonight, another person than Mr. Innocent, as he takes us on this topic. God bless you, Mr. Innocent.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Innocent, and I'll be your facilitator for today. So in today's webinar, we are going to be talking about user interface and user experience design. So hopefully, if this is your first time of hearing about user interface and user experience design, we'll be able to demystify what user interface design is, as well as user experience. All right. Now, with user interface and user experience design, to make it easier for us to understand the concept around this, I want to walk us back to the last time we saw a tall building or any kind of building at all being erected. One of the things we don't usually see is the planning that goes into that building before the first block or even before the foundation was casted. That is what user experience and user interface design is to digital products. An example is, if I want to build a house, I look for an architect, and the aim of looking for this architect is to draw a plan or a blueprint of what the house will look like. So I'll tell the person the number of rooms I want. Altogether, if it's a story building, I just describe what I want in a nutshell. And the architect would take that information and draw up a blueprint or a plan of that house. He would distribute where the kitchen or the different bathrooms we are going to have in the building, how it will be distributed both upstairs and downstairs. And then he'll bring the plan to me. I'll review that plan to see if it meets my expectation. If not, well, I just ask him to go back and do some, finishing, just to maybe move some things. Maybe if the parlor is too small, expand it just a little bit. All of this is so that before the foundation is laid, before we start putting blocks and all of that, it is easier to make those corrections on paper. It is also less expensive to make those corrections on paper. Now, if the first floor is completed and then there's a need to maybe add another bedroom, what happened? We have to break the house or part of the house and then begin to come up with a different way of adding another room to the entire building, which to some extent is going to weaken the entire structure, right? So all of this is done before the actual house is built. This is exactly what user interface and user experience design is to digital products. So like I said, this is an introductory class. We are going to walk through what I have in the PowerPoint presentation, after which I'll just do a quick demo with the tool we are going to be working with. First off, let's start with some definitions. What is user interface? User interface is simply, now it can also be referred to as UI, all right? UI, user interface, is the space where human as well as machine interact. This comprises of the visual and the physical elements a user interacts with, such as screens, buttons, icons, menus on devices like your phone, your computer, and any kind of digital device at all that you use. This is what user interface is about. Just to give us some examples, I'll bring this on the screen. So these are examples of different devices with user interfaces. For example, we have a car stereo. The car stereo has buttons as well as screen that is responsive to your touch. We have mobile phone. We also have coffee maker. So coffee maker, is that a digital device? Well, depends on the coffee maker you're asking about. This particular one has buttons that can be pressed. So yes, this is a user interface. Then we also have AI assistants. So that picture, the one here in the middle, is the device known as Alexa from Amazon. So this is an AI assistant. This one uses voice command. So, this voice command is also another way of instructing the computer to get things done. This is why we said digital devices. Then we also have a smartwatch. All of these devices on the screen all have user interfaces. So this is what a user interface is about. If we go to the definition of user interface, we also go a little bit deeper, where we really want to understand the different aspects of user interfaces. First one is the graphical user interface. This is any kind of UI. Now, whenever I say UI, it simply means user interface. This is any kind of computer screen that can be used to perform an action. This is what we call graphical user interface. So users interact with a visual representation, like an icon, a menu, a pointer on a screen, such as a desktop or a mobile app. And the application or the device responds to that touch, to that push. This is another type of user interface. So we have the graphical user interface. Then we also have voice-controlled interfaces, or VUIs. I gave an example of Alexa, all right? I gave an example of Alexa. Also, for some of us that have iPhone, there's another assistant there called Siri. For some of us that use Android, there's one called a Google Assistant, where you use verbal command to instruct the device to get things done. So we also have voice-controlled interfaces. We have gesture-based interfaces. Interfaces where you can maybe clap your hand and it responds, or use any kind of gesture to get the application or the device to respond. That is what we call gesture-based interfaces. We also have physical UI elements. Please, anytime you say UI, that simply means user interface. So physical user interface elements. These are physical parts, including buttons, sliders. For some of us that are used to older form of the older stereo devices we have on cars, most of the buttons there are round, where you have to twist or rotate your hand to increase the volume or change channels, right? Others are sliders. You slide the button to either change channel or to maybe increase the volume up and down. We have touch screens, like our current smart devices, as well as both. This can be on hardware, like coffee machines, or on smart appliances, even down to our fridges these days. All right, so these are physical UI elements or physical user interface elements. Okay, just a quick information. If you have any question while I'm talking, please leave it in the chat so that we can, so that I can answer those questions as they come. Now, the next thing we are going to be looking at is the user experience. So it's one thing to have user interfaces. It's another thing to also get an experience from using those devices. For example, if you remember the last time you tried to unlock your door and it looks like your key is not opening that door. All right, you're quite angry, frustrated. That is an experience. The same thing to when you use your mobile phone and you're trying to make a call, or probably something urgent just came up, you want to quickly, reach out to somebody on WhatsApp and your phone is hanging. You get frustrated. That is an experience. All right. So user experience just refers to the overall perception, emotion, or responses a person has when interacting with a company's product. In this case, I'm using company's product because when you are a user interface and user experience designer, what you do most of the time is you develop user interfaces and user experiences for products belonging to companies. So when you interact with these companies' products or systems, down to services, how do you feel? Because most of the time when you design a product, it is all about the experience you get from using the product. That is what quantify the kind of maybe review you give when you are asked about that particular product. All right, so this is what user experience is about. Now, because of this, let me bring it down to how do we now, why is it important? First off, you see websites, you see mobile apps. Some of us we are definitely on a digital device if you are in this meeting. So that device you are using, this meeting is currently streaming on YouTube, and this meeting is live on Zoom. The Zoom application you are using has a user interface. All right. The Zoom you are using was designed by somebody. For those of us who are not techie, Applications are designed in two stages. First of all, the user interface, just like I spoke earlier on the architect, who is going to first of all draw out the plan for a building before the civil engineer now comes in to turn that paper drawing or that blueprint into a physical building, right? The same way with developers or people who write computer codes and people who design user interfaces. So if I have a product to launch, for example, I want to start selling shoes online. Because of that, I want to build a website as well as a mobile app. Well, I'm going to look for somebody who can, first of all, design this user interface for me. Let me have the feel of what it will look like. Let me see where the buttons are positioned. Because every decision the person makes is not just accidental. Those decisions are made based on what the person feels is best for the user using that product. So a user experience or a UI UX designer usually design the user interface and the user experience of a digital device. I'm going to give us a demo later or as we progress. So user experience is all about the emotion, your overall experience, either good or bad or somewhere in the middle. How you feel about using a particular digital product is what we refer to as user experience. The same thing to the last time you bought a product online and it was not what you ordered for, and you call their customer care and the person is saying, please, I don't understand what you are saying. They're angry. That's a bad customer experience. The same thing we are talking about, but in this case, we are saying it's all about a particular digital product, not about you making a purchase. All right, so this is what user experience refer to. Just like we talked about components of user interface, we also have different components of user experience. And for user experience, one of the most important things is the product. Please, when I talk about product in this case, it could be a mobile app, it could be a website, it could be a desktop app that runs on your computer. How usable is it? That is what we call usability. So the ease with which users can navigate a website, a mobile app, or even a physical product like a coffee machine is what we talk about, is what we mean when we talk about user experience and usability. So how usable is that product? How usable is that design? How easy is it for a customer to be able to get things done? That is what we mean by usability. When you start working on user experience, one of the most important things is also user research. If I ask us to build a dating app today for a particular audience, we won't just stand up and start designing. No, first of all, we need to know who are these target audience. All right. User experience design, we have a user and a target audience. These are two different people. The target audience is the person for which the product is designed for. All right. The person for whom you are designing that product for is the target audience. Now, every other person outside of that target audience is now considered users. An example, the animation movie Tom and Jerry, if I ask you who is this movie made for, you'd rather say children. But that doesn't mean adults don't watch that movie. All right, so the target audience in this case is children. Everyone that is not a child watching Tom and Jerry is considered a user. All right, so with user research, it gives you clues as to what your target audience would like. For example, if you're designing for, let's say somebody, let's say from the age of 20 down, what do those people do on a daily basis? What are the things they are excited about? You can now incorporate all of that into the application or into the design, making it easier or making it relevant to your target audience. All right, so user research is one of the components of user experience, because without user research, you don't know the people you are building the experience for. There's no user experience design without, first of all, understanding your target audience. So that's important. Another important component of user experience is information architecture. This simply means the way you arrange information on that product. For example, if we have a coffee machine and the buttons are under the machine, how easy is it for you to make coffee with it? What does that mean? The buttons are not easily accessible. Because of that, that is going to contribute to the user experience. So eventually, I want to make my coffee machine, but I want to make a coffee, but I have to first of all lift the coffee machine from the ground to turn it on from the bottom. What if my coffee is done and I have to turn it off? I have to now lift it up again. You see? So information architecture is how things like buttons, links, how they are arranged in that digital or in that product. So the structural design of information, such as the way you navigate, the content organization, making it easy to find, is what we call information architecture. For example, if you visit 3 websites today, right now as we speak, you discover that the home page, the About Us page, the Contact Us page, probably the services page, you can see them the moment you land on the website, except you are on a mobile device. And if you're on a mobile device, it is usually tucked somewhere around the corner with 3 lines. All right. This is how information architecture is, the arrangement of information in a way that it is very, very intuitive for somebody to use without having to spend the next 30 seconds looking for how to navigate around that user interface. That is what we call information architecture. The next one is interaction design. If I click on the home page on your website, am I going to see the home page? If I click on About Us, what happens if I click on the About Us on the website, and instead of me seeing about the company or about the brand, I'm seeing contact information? That is one thing. Interaction design is designing how a user interacts with a product. I'm also going to explain some of that when we get to the demo part. Is designing how a user interacts with a product, focusing on creating intuitive, seamless path and workflow. What that simply means is moving from point A to point B should not be a problem. Information architecture, on the other hand, is the arrangement. Whereas interaction design is linking all these different arrangements together in a way that is very, very easy to move around. The final aspect of this is the visual design. Visual design. The visual design, well, it is what you see with your eyes. So this is all about the aesthetics, the color, the typography, in order to improve the user engagement on that platform or the usability without sacrificing the application's functionality. What do I mean? Let's quickly unpack all that. When we talk about visual design, we are talking about creating something that is visually appealing while also maintaining the functionality or the task or the problem the application or the design is supposed to solve is not lost in that process of trying to make that application look appealing. That is what visual design is about. Because there are some people, once they want to put a box in a particular place in the user interface, and it is overlapping a button. They decide to now move the button from that place to a different location. Now, moving that button from that place to a different location just to make sure the bus is in that particular place is not the best idea, because probably the initial spot you are leaving that button is easily accessible. There are people that are not very tech savvy. So when they come to, let's say, a website, or they are using an application, they look all around. They don't even know that you'd have to scroll down because there are more content at the bottom of that screen. They look around. Once they can't find it, they walk away. So making that design visually appealing without sacrificing functionality is what we call visual design. We've spoken a little about user interface design and user experience design. What tools do we have in the market that can be used for this UI UX design? Currently, we have 3 important tools, although most of these tools are no longer heavily used because we now have more like a de facto tool that is used for user interface and user experience design. The first one we have on our list is called Figma. It's called Figma. I think Figma is the last one to, come into the market, but right now it is the de facto tool used for almost anything. And this gives us the ability to do visual design as well as experience design together on the cloud, where you can collaborate with. You can be in Nigeria here, you can collaborate with anybody or your team members spread across the world. It is cloud-based. The next one we have on the list is Adobe XD. Adobe XD is short for Adobe Experience Design. This used to be very popular back when I started learning how to use this tool as well, but now it's still in the market, but is not very popular these days. Then we also have Sketch. Sketch is very much like Adobe XD. Is used. The only drawback to Sketch is only available if you are using the Mac. For those of us who don't know what Mac is, if you are using Apple computer, that is the only time you can use Sketch. So we are going to be focusing on Figma. We are going to be focusing on Figma in this webinar. So Figma is the de facto tool used for user interface and user experience design. So Figma is a leading cloud-based collaborative design platform. Initially, Figma is used just for user interface and user experience design. But now Figma can be used for things like your presentation. For example, this presentation right now can be done on Figma, can be done. There are other things that you can do on Figma these days. When I use Figma, I just focus on using it with just for user interface and user experience design. So it is used for user interface and user experience for things like your website, your mobile applications, and all of that. So it operates directly in your browser. You don't necessarily need to install anything on your computer to be able to use Figma. It even has, I think they also have a mobile app that you can view your mobile design on your phone to make it look as if you're actually using that application already. So you don't necessarily have to install any application, although they have a standalone application as well, but you don't need to. If you have a browser, you can use Figma. So this allows team to design, to prototype. We'll talk about what prototyping is later, to prototype, as well as to gather feedback in real time. You can actually chat on Figma while you are working on designing user interfaces as well as user experiences for an app or for any kind of digital product. So what have I said so far? I've said the mobile applications you have on your phone, they are not just designed from the head directly. Because if you are just designing as you are thinking, if you sleep on it, the next time you come, you'd want to change so many things. But once you take your time to, first of all, put the design in order, and the design is approved, and then it goes into development. What development means is the person who is going to write the code for that application or for that design goes to work, just like the architect finishes with the plan and then hands it over to the civil engineer. In this case, the civil engineer is the developer. So, like I said earlier, if we have questions, leave it in the chat. So far, so good. I don't think there's any question. There's no question here in the chat yet. Let's quickly see what the user interface of Figma looks like. So this is what Figma looks like. For those of us who are on a mobile device, you can turn on your auto rotate and then just turn your phone to be able to get a better view of whatever I'll be sharing from here on. So this is what Figma interface looks like. It doesn't look scary. We don't have much tools like we usually have on design softwares like Photoshop and the likes. Simple, enough space for you to explore, move things around. This is what Figma looks like. We'll dive into Figma a little bit towards the end of the webinar. However, I want to quickly give Madam a quick chance to tell us a thing or two before we proceed. And then once we come back, we'll quickly wrap up with this webinar.
Okay. Thank you everyone that is on the call. This is coming to us from Geophia Academy. We do this every month. The last Friday of the month is our free webinar where we try to give out the basics, introductory part of this computer courses. Many a times you find it difficult to relate. It seems very difficult. So when we come in like this, we break it down so that we can all understand the basics, so that one can take a decision on launching into any of the topics, any of the courses, any of the IT courses. So it's important to develop ourselves. We can learn online, you can learn from the home, you can learn in centers, no matter your location. It's important to engage ourselves into these basic courses to enhance ourselves to become relevant and become useful even in our society and also in workspaces. Like we are all seeing these things are not as cumbersome as it is assumed. So we take it from the basics. And if we have gotten to know the basics, we can move up again to another level. So it's important to develop ourselves. Like we said, Geophia Academy is a tutorial center. We take courses or prepare students for Nigerian exams. We prepare students for foreign exams. We also prepare students for computer courses. You can learn the basic computer from zero tech to any level of your interest. So right in this list, every month we come up with this. And next month again, the last Friday of the month, it's just a 1 hour, 30-minute section. If you have questions, you can send in. If you did not fill the form, also learn to register so that we can always send you the invite for subsequent meetings. Like I said, this is a monthly program. You can get involved. You can invite a friend. You can share the link. Even right now, you can share the link. Thank you so much for joining as we continue the section. To wrap up this section for the month. Welcome, Mr. Innocent.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So to wrap up, I want to quickly do the last bit of this, and then we'll see the demo. So like I said, this is what the Figma user interface looks like. But usually when you design in Figma or user interface and user experience all together, we have two parts, two types of design. There's one called the low fidelity design. And with low fidelity design, what that means is when you are laying out, in this case, we are going to experiment with working with the mobile app. So let's say we want to design a mobile app. I know a lot of us here, almost everybody here has a phone. And we've had multiple experiences using different types of applications, from your banking application to your social media applications to games and all of that. These applications are designed differently. One of the things we can all attest to is the moment you open even a new app, it looks like you know exactly where to go to. That's what I mean by intuitive. Now, with low fidelity design, you are not focusing on the look, the feel of the application. It's like you making a rough sketch of what the design is going to look like. You know how you are trying to scribble something down? It's more like making a draft of your design before you now refine that design. So low fidelity is more like a black and white representation of your design. After low fidelity, we'll now go to high fidelity. This is where you now bring in color, you bring in design elements on the screen. Let's take a look. So this shape on the screen represents your mobile phone. A low fidelity design is supposed to take that's supposed to represent, let's say, a login page for a mobile app, for example. The low fidelity design would look something like this. Like I said, you can easily rotate your phone so you can get a bigger picture of what we are sharing on the screen. So a low fidelity design looks something like this. Obviously, we have just 3 colors represented here. And if I wanted to reduce it to 2 colors, I would have taken out this blue color from this design. Instead of using an image, I just decided to use this thing here to represent an image. And then there's text. And this is what a simple design looks like. This design was done in Figma. So we are not focusing on the look and feel. We are just focusing on the structure. For example, where do I want to position this logo? Do I position it in the middle? Do I shift it to the left-hand side? After the logo, what next? Oh, I'm going to have a heading that says, welcome back. Probably your name is going to come in here. And then a quick text telling us to enter our information to get a good experience. And then this is a form. This is the place where you can either enter your name, your username, or your email address. You enter your password, and then you click on the login to be logged into the app. We also have a button in case you forget your password. And then, if you already have an account, click on this to go to the, or if you don't have an account, I think I made a mistake on that. If you don't have an account, you can click on this sign up to take you to the sign up page where you can create your account. All right, all of this is what user interface is about. So what you are seeing on the screen right now is what we call user interface. What the task was, design a login page. And all of this information on the screen here makes it easier for you to log in. And it even provides option in case you have problem logging in. What's that solution? One, maybe you've not created an account yet. So you can what? You can sign up. Maybe you've forgotten your password. So what happened? You can click on forgot password and then have the password sent to your email. So while we are thinking of designing this user interface, we're also thinking of possible problem the user may encounter, and we are providing that solution in the user interface. So This is a simple design, nothing much. This is low fidelity design. What if we now add color to kind of spice up the user interface? Remember we talked about visual design. What if we now want to do visual design? What does that look like? Well, that is called high fidelity design. So in place of using this box here, I'm going to replace it with the real logo of the brand. Then I'm going to add more color to beautify the entire screen, improving the user experience. All right, so I'll click here, and this is what the high fidelity design looks like. You can see my choice of color. You can see the logo here called blocked. All of this, I have to think about it. I have a reason for using the colors I'm using. I have a reason for positioning this on the screen in this particular, for example, the logo being in the middle. There's a reason for that. Maybe after I'm done with the low fidelity design, I may change my mind. I don't want to use the logo in the middle. I want to move it to the left-hand side of the screen. Well, in the high fidelity design, those corrections can now be effected. So this is exactly what we mean by user interface and user experience design. Before I walk us through the demo, I want to quickly check the chat to see if there's any question, and then we can. Okay, so somebody asked, apart from designing user interfaces and user experiences, what else can Figma be used for? Well, Figma can also, this is a design tool. And if you look at this high fidelity design on the screen, you discover that you can use this to design something that looks visually appealing. So this can be used for things like logo design. For example, this logo was designed using Figma. I designed this logo using Figma. Although this is just an ordinary text, there's nothing interesting going on here. But Figma can be used for basic graphic design. I said basic graphic design. Can be used for basic graphic design. Can be used for logo design as well. Basic logo design as well. Because the main reason why we use Figma is mainly for user interface and user experience design. It also has a whiteboard functionality. It also has a presentation functionality where you can create this, slide. For example, this has been, the slide I'm using in this webinar was put together using PowerPoint, but you can also use Figma for slides as well. All right, so this is what you can use Figma for. If there's no other question, I want to quickly proceed to the demo. Now, because I'm on a system and I'll be pointing to part of the applications that are kind of small, I'll be using my magnifying tool on my PC. So please, I want to just put that out there. All right. So I'm switching to Figma from my PowerPoint, and this is what the Figma interface looks like. So I have another screen to my right, so I'll be looking at the right eye. All right, so please, if you can rotate your computer, it would be very nice to give you a better picture of what we have on the screen here. All right, so these two interfaces are included in the PowerPoint presentation. They are here. So basically, this is my logo. This logo can also be positioned on the left-hand side of the screen. But the good thing is this, since I'm designing a mobile app, Figma has different type of devices built in, whereby you can interact with this thing as if you are on an actual phone. So if I click on this and then I click on preview, to the right-hand side, you can see something that looks like an actual or a physical device. You can say that's iPhone 14. It looks more like a physical device. And this gives you a holistic view of what this will look like if it is on a mobile device. I can quickly create another page by duplicating this page here. And instead of welcome back, I can simply do something like sign up. And then, of course, the form here will change because now I have to collect information to register the user. So, for example, what's your name? What's your phone number? What's your email address? And what's your password? And instead of this button to say login, you can easily say either sign up, or I can simply use something like register. And just like that, we have two screens. This is screen 1 for logging in. This is screen 2 for signing up. And if you check, if I click on any of this frame, it is updating what is shown on the device. And this is the reason why I'm making the device as big as possible so that everybody can see what's going on the screen. So now we have two screens. Well, let me quickly walk us through the user interface of the Figma application. So I said I'm going to be using my Zoom tool. All right. So at the top of our screen, here, we can create a blank project or a new project by clicking on the plus button here. If you click on it, it will open this. So these are the different things you can do with Figma. But most of the time, what we do with Figma is just by clicking on design. We have FigJam. This is a different tool. We also have slides. Remember I said you can use it for creating slideshows for your events. This is another one. So if I click on design, it's going to create a new file where I can start designing a different user interface. But I don't want to take us too far. Now, on the left-hand side is where we have all the different things here. This is the layers panel. As you keep putting things on your design, it stacks on top of each other. So this creates layers. So this is where you manage your layers. On the right-hand side here, we have two things. One, we have the design tab. This is, if you're on the design tab, this is where you design the user interface. And then there's another tab here called the prototype. Let me zoom in a little bit. So we have design and we have prototype. So the prototype is where you do the user experience. The design tab is where you do the user interface design. All right. So this is where you can add a new thing on the screen, move it around, and all that. So let me just give a quick example. So let's say this login and sign up screen, they are looking exactly the same. I want something to look different on the sign up screen. So what do? I come in here. Then let me zoom in again to the bottom of the screen. So at the bottom of this screen, you can see these are the different tools you have for Figma. For example, if I click on this, you see different tool here. If I click on this, you see different tool here. You can see rectangle, line, arrow, ellipse, and all of that. If I click here, you have more tools. The number of tools we have here, they are not that much. But I want to use the rectangle tool to create another effect, just like this. You can see this effect. I want to create another effect on the sign up page. I take that and draw a square. So this square, I want the color to be red. So what do? I move to the extreme here to choose a different color, and I'm going to make that color a shade of red. So this is the red I have chosen. Now, the moment you click on a tool, what you see here change because it's the properties panel. So depending on what you are clicking on, the information on the right-hand side will be different. Properties panel. Now, with this, I want to add something called an effect. Change this effect to layer blur. So if you look at this rectangle, the rectangle is now looking blurry. Final thing is I want to increase the blur to, let's say, 180 pixels. And you can see this blur can now be added to this page. And you can see there's a blur here, there's another blur here, there's another blur at the bottom. So this makes these two screens different. It's as simple as that. All right. For those of us who are asking, is this not too difficult to learn? No. There's no coding involved here. You're not coding. All you just simply need to do is, just like I drew that rectangle, you take your text tool to be able to write a text here, for example. So I want to zoom in. So I just want to write the text here. That's all. And then I can just move this text and position it here instead. So I'm going to take this one away and position this here. The reason I just have to do is to change the color to a different color, like this. And that changes all of that. Final thing I want to talk about before we end today's webinar is user experience. User experience. We said user experience is basically the experience, the overall experience somebody gets from using your product. In digital term, if this is an app, this app is called a product. So I come to this login page. I don't have an account and I want to navigate to the sign up page. Now I click on sign up. For those of us who can see what's going on here, I am clicking on the sign up here, but look at it here. I'm clicking on the sign up, but nothing is happening. If this is your app on your phone, you'll be frustrated. That's a bad user experience. So I want to add a user experience that will be able to take us from the sign up page to the sign in page or the login page, and then from the login page back to the sign up page. But before then, I want to make a quick correction. Then we wrap. The correction I want to make is simple. On the login page, I am saying already have an account. This is supposed to be asking the user if they don't have an account. So it's saying you don't have an account, well, sign up. And then here, already have an account. Instead of taking you to the sign up page, I'm supposed to take you to the sign in page. So these are the two places I want to work with. But before I can do anything, remember, user experience is done on the prototype tab. I am still on the design tab, right? So I'm going to use the prototype tab to just quickly do the simple user experience. I switch to the top here. I switch to prototype. And then here, all I just simply need to do is this. I select this text. You see this plus icon appearing. All I just simply need to do is, if I drag from here, from this plus, I just drag. You can see there's an arrow here. I drag from here and I put it on this other screen. What it simply means is this. If somebody taps on this button that says, sign in, take them to the sign in page. I'm going to do the same thing for the sign up page. So if somebody clicks on the sign up, what do we do? Take them to the sign up page. And this is as easy as user experience can be. So now we have the sign in page, taking somebody to the sign in page, and then clicking on the sign up page takes you to what? To the sign up page. Let's see this on the device. I'll zoom out again, bring up my device to the screen for everybody to see. So this is my device. So now I'm clicking, but I'm not clicking on the sign in. And you can see that flash. That tells you there is a user interaction expected. It's called hotspot. All right. So if I click on sign in, what happens? I am on the welcome page. If I click on sign up, what happens? I am on the sign up page. So this is more like you using your actual application on your mobile device. And this is what we call user experience. Now, if I want to go ahead, if I want to do a little bit of experience, I can click on the button and then something pops up. I can do all of those things using Figma. And this is what user interface and user experience is. So the next time you use your mobile app, the next time you use a website, know that before this website or this mobile app was put together, there was something called user interface and user experience done by a designer before the code that was written for this website or for this app was put together. Thank you so much. So I'll check the chat again to see if there's any question. Let's take maybe 2 minutes to check if there's a question, and then we can wrap for the day. So if you have any question, you can quickly leave it in the chat. And you mentioned real-time collaboration. Yes, real-time collaboration, meaning just like we are on Figma right now, I can chat with somebody either via audio or via chat. So here's an example. I am done with this project and I send the project to my partner or my team member. My team member can easily say, using, now I'd have to zoom in again, please, just so I can point out something quickly here. At the bottom here, you see this tool, it says comment. If I click on this tool, I'll scroll to the top. I click on this logo. When I click on this logo, you can see it says what? Add a comment. This is part of the collaboration. So let's assume I'm in the role of the other person whom the design was sent to. I can simply say something like this: move the logo to the center of the screen. You can see this. That simply means the designer that sent me this design is going to get an email notification, or the next time he opens this project, he's going to see the comment I have left on the design. This is an instruction. It says what? Move, you can see it there, move the logo to the center of the screen. So once the other designer sees this comment, and what will he do? Well, he first of all would have to move, he'd have to move what? The logo to the center of this screen, like this. Once he's done, he comes back to my comment and then he will mark it as resolved. Once this has been resolved, the person that placed this comment is also going to get a notification that there's a resolution to that comment. All this can also happen via audio conversation, just like how people game online, and you can hear the other person from the other end, even from across the world. The same thing to Figma as well. That is what I mean by collaboration. By the way, it doesn't matter how many people are on this project. It can be 20 people, it can be 100 people working on this particular project. We can all collaborate and point out corrections and move the project forward that way. Let me see if there's another question in the chat. No. This, somebody is asking, does it require any beginner coding experience in any way? No. You don't have to code. You don't have to code. You don't have to learn how to code. The only thing you need is just patience. You just need patience and dedication to learning. That's all. Another person is, okay, is Figma free? I've been using Figma for close to 5 years and I've not paid a dime for it. Although there is a paid version. just to highlight what I'm saying here, if we go to the top of my Figma project, you can see it says free. So I'm currently on a free plan. The time I use paid plan is when I'm working with an external team. Either the team already has a paid plan and we collaborate on it. If they don't, the free plan is also okay for you to get any kind of project you want to get off the ground, up and running very easily. I don't think there's another. Okay. There's no other comment. Over to you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for staying through to this moment. Like, if you still have more questions, you can still forward your question from the same WhatsApp or the email that you chatted up from. So, like I said, this program is coming to us from Geophia Academy. You can learn online. You can learn at a distance, anywhere you are. You need this course to can happen online. You can also learn physically. You can learn physically in the center. You can learn from basic computer, zero computer. So any tech course, you are free to learn. It's a flexible plan. The flexible plan. When the computer world, and it's important to begin to learn, like he mentioned, you just need patience. You just need patience. You can see that this is not as complex as it looks. When you settle down, you find out that it is possible to move from one level to another level of knowledge. You can take web development courses, graphic courses, video editing courses, cyber security, like the course you just introduced now, UI, UX, ethical hacking, Excel package, PowerPoint packages, so many computer courses, data analysis, you can learn any of them, as well as we prepare students for foreign exams like IELTS, TOEFL, SAT, GMAT, GRE, any of those courses you are preparing for a foreign school, you can get yourself prepared for a physical class, for an online section as well. Also, you can also prepare students for Nigerian exams. Currently, we are in for JAM preparation. You can do post-UTME preparation, GCE, NECO, WAEC preparation, as well as adult education classes. There's no late time back to school. You can get back to school at any age, so you can return back even through this platform. You will help also to register for several programs like NYC registration. So it's important to get ourselves ready and equip ourselves in for the tech world. And finally, this program holds every month, the last Friday of the month, just 4 p.m. You log in for free and learn a few things to move on. It's already coming up also with an online course. We're working on that, and very soon it will be out on the public online course. You can as well learn at your own convenient moment, convenient time to learn a particular skill. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for so many that have been with us for a while. So many. Necessary. Okay, somebody's dropping a message. Is it necessary for website creation, or are they tools? So is Mr. Innocent still there? Mr. Innocent, there's a question on the chat. I don't know if, have you answered that?
Let me see if there's another question in the chat. Okay. The question is it necessary for website creation, or are there other tools to use apart from UI UX to actually? Okay, so before Figma became very popular, the alternative was using tools like CorelDRAW, Photoshop. That was the alternative. But these days, now, Photoshop cannot do the user experience part of it. It can only design the user interface, but not the user experience. This is why either Adobe XD, Sketch, or Figma is the tool you can use for this. And the learning curve is not that much. So that would be my answer to that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Innocent. I hope that's the last question at the moment. Thank you for joining. This program holds every month. By next month, we'll be here again, the same time, the last Friday of the month. And thank you, everyone. And I believe you have picked one or two skills to begin to dive into the next phase of your life. Thank you and have a beautiful weekend. See you next month.